Okay, this is the first webinar for A9 that we are making for the African countries and for the for our partners and dealers in Britain. So this webinar will be consists of two sections. The first one I will explain to you about the basic functions that we added to this device that did not exist on other devices that you already know from VATECH. And my partner, Mr. Alex Young, he will explain to you tomorrow about more complex issues like image sections. So first, in order to save time, I would like to, I just made it this short summary so you can see the major modifications that were made on this A9 model. And later I will explain to you why we named it A9, and I will show you the hardware and software installation procedures, and then I will let you know about the console software modifications too. So first thing first, let's take a look at the few changes, modifications that we did on this A9 EOX model. The first one is that this is chair type. So far, you've been using VATECH products that when the patient had to stand in order to take the image, but this one is seated type only. So every clinic who purchased this product, every dealer who proposes this product to any clinic will need to sell it or to buy it along with the chair. And chair has some specifications that will be available on technical manual, on the technical documentations that you will get along with the product. So as it is the seated type, you don't need the temple support and you don't need the canine beam because those are for the positioning purposes in case if the patient is standing. So in case of, as this one is the seated type, you don't need them. So the first one is this device is seated type only, all right? And the second one is we made some adjustable chin rest for Pano and CT. So whenever you take any of this, using any of these modes like Pano or CT, you will need to move this chin rest either to in front direction or drag it back. It's quite easy to do actually because you will hear the sound whenever you move it back and forth. So it's quite easy to adjust. So you have to be careful about this because whenever you take the panel on CT, you have to first check if the chin rest position is either on panel or CT. The third change or modification that we did here was we have sensors which with label V on them. You will these actually sensors look the same as the other products, especially GreenX, but whenever you see this symbol of V on it, you will know for sure that this one is A9 product. All right. So it will also have different SAP code, and the product name also will be different. Maybe there will be A9 in the end of the name. But in order to recognize it from looking at it, then you have to always check this V sign on it. And the fourth is in some countries, when they buy the product, some countries VATECH ships a PC to those countries. And all the PCs that we ship have external LAN cards. This device uses external LAN cards. So those are installed at VATECH usually and shipped on the PCs. But some countries, they don't buy PCs directly from VATECH. And if in your country you buy PCs at your own market, then you will need also to purchase external LAN cards for their image quality. And the specifications you will find in more details in the technical documentations that come with the product. Also, the LED status lamps have been added to the boards on the main MCU and eGrabber. It means whenever you go to the site, and if there are any problems that you may experience, the customer is experiencing any problems, then you go to the site and you don't know, for example, for sure what is the problem, then you will be able to check these lamps. I will later show you in more details. Every lamp on these 3 sections will have a specific number code, and it will have the explanation. So just by looking at the lamp, you'll be able to understand at least where is the problem, and then you will save your time by finding the problem parts. The 6th innovation or modification that we did on this one is, or change, let's say, it's the IP, server IP number has been changed. Why? Because previous IP, which, as you remember, start with 195 and etc., etc., there was some problems when that IP had some conflict within the clinic, or the hospital. So we changed the IP number to this standard 1000 and 200 and 100 number, and subnet mask to these number below, so that to avoid that conflict in the IP number. So that problem will be solved in this way. The 7th modification is that the tube size is smaller now. So if it's smaller, then it will most probably get hot quite soon. So in order to prevent it, we will supply, or we added the default fan. Usually the fans, as you know, were optional, but on this device, the fan is by default installed because of the size of the tube, which gets hot. Possibly it may get hot. So that's why, to prevent those issues, we added by default fans to this device. And during the installation, I will later explain about this. You will need to select one GPS in full duplex. It's very important in order to provide the better speed of the image transmission. So all these issues, this one in 8 and this one mentioned in 5, I will show you in more details later on the slides. And also in the second slide, you can see that we pre-attached the aluminum and copper filters to the device, because sometimes service engineers, they may forget taking these with them to the site. So in order to prevent the issues, like to save the time for the engineer and to fix the problem without leaving the clinic again and getting back to, in order to, to fetch this aluminum and copper filters, we just pre-attached them on the device, so you will always have them at hand. And The second one is function is quite useful, I guess, too, because you will like it. It's remote X-ray exposure test. You can do it remotely now. So if you have a good internet connection at site, you don't have to go in order to make a test if there is any call from the customer. So you need to make an exposure test, right? So usually you have to go to the site, and it will take time and money. But in this case, you can save both time and money, and you can just connect remotely to the device, and you can make X-ray exposure test right there. You can capture, also you can make tube feedback test, and you can make also image optimization, like beam alignment or on is-align or sensor bright calibration. All this is possible through remote X-ray exposure test. And the number 3 is about the weight. It's although it's 3D device, it's quite lighter than the previous VATECH 3D devices. It's kind of more closer weight-wise. It's closer to the 2D devices. So probably we recommend the more the better actually, but well, 2 strong and 3 men can handle this product. And the height is 1966 millimeters. It's quite tall, like other 3D models of VATECH. One more thing that we have here is the keypad. This keypad is touch keypad, so you just need to touch it with your finger. So there is no need to push it or something, because if it's a button that you have to push, then at some point it may get problems with the connection. So in this case, you don't have to push anything. You just need to put your finger on one of the signs here on the keypad, and you can move the column up and down. You can control it easily from here. And another point in this device is that we added mirror. So whenever you want to position your patient, you will need to, it will be quite easier to do, because the patients also can see themselves on the mirror, so they can easily change their positions, and maybe it will also help the staff themselves in order to easily position the patient. So this one is quite useful function too, I guess. We also had a FlexSpeed 2000 tester. It's called FlexSpeed 2000 tester. It's in order to perform the pattern test, and you can make a dark image acquisition or UART communication with TCP/IP and check grabber version, for example. So all this is possible with this new FlexSpeed 2000 tester. And another new issue that function that we added to this device is FS2000 Manager. What is it for? You can, it's usually automatically installed. Whenever you install the install shield, I'll show you, it will be automatically installed on PC. So you will have no problem with this, the firmware. Okay. Can you see the presentation file? I think something happened on my screen. Okay, I guess we lost the presentation file. Let me try it again. It's internet issue, I guess. All right, it should be okay now. All right, I think it's visible right now. So the FS2000 manager, it will be installed automatically on along with the install shield, and you can use it to upgrade firmware. So these new functions and modifications are the main thing that we are going to talk about today. This is just to have, general idea what kind of changes we have on this new device and what kind of device are you going to get. So I'm going to the next slide and introduce you in more detail to the products. Well, we before doing this webinar, we expect that each and every one of you have at least 6 months of experience with installation of dental X-ray imaging equipment, and you must have at least basic idea, because otherwise you will not be able to probably understand some functions in here. But if you have this period experience, then it will be much easier for you to grasp the contents. And while we are done with this webinar, you will have idea what is A9 model, what is VATECH A9, and what kind of functions does it have, what is the difference between A9 model and other VATECH products. You will know the major features and specifications. You will know where the boards are located, the location of the new boards that we added to this device. And also you will have an idea about the internal connection diagrams. So about the name of this model, this is not so important, but just in case if you wonder why it's VATECH A9. So this is the first entry level in VATECH. The first time we made something new, which is doesn't look like the other devices. So because of its being an entry-level product, but equipped with 3D functions, then because it's the first one, then we chose the letter A as the first letter of alphabet. And also it has the 8x8 FOV, but it also has the ARC FOV on VATECH device. So that's why in ARC FOV, the FOV size is 9.3 by 8, and there is number 9 in it. That's why we put the A9. So that's why it's called VATECH A9. As easy as that. And when you look at the product itself, you will recognize that it's almost the same as any other VATECH products, with the difference that you have to face the product. I mean, the patient has to face the product when taking the image, and the patient has to sit down. But otherwise, the main functions and the main parts of the product are same. So we have CT and we have panorama and cephalometric. The cephalometric is rapid ceph, and we have the Magic Pen solution. Also the single FOV 8x8 and the ARC FOV by 9.3 by 8. And otherwise, it's almost the same as others. As I told you, because of the smaller size of the tube, we have now 2 fans right here, and this is by default. So it's not optional, it's just by default. And we also moved there is a distance now between the emergency switch and the power button. So sometimes some people, some staff could mistakenly push on the emergency button. So that's why to avoid those problems, we made a distance between them. And we don't have the temple support. Also, we have, because of the CT type, and we have the keypad, as I told you already, and we have the meter in here, and the patient must sit and face the column itself. And the column is sliding type with, we also applied the integral actuator. The operating stroke is about 400 millimeters, and it because you will have this child and adults patients sitting, so we had to adjust taking the international standard size of human body when they sit. So everything was considered, and there shouldn't be any problems with the image acquisition in this part. So as I told you in the previous slide, we added these 3 filters for sensor calibration. You will use it during the sensor calibration, so you can you don't have to worry if you forgot it in the office, because you don't have to carry them anymore. They will be here. And in case of the remote exposure, as I told you, we added new commands. So what do you do with remote exposure is you don't have to go to the side. You just, if you have the internet connection, of course, and if there is internet connection, there's good internet connection at site, then you will be able to connect to the device and make image optimization. You can make capture tests. You can make tube feedback tests. And the image optimization could be for X-ray beam alignment or sensor calibration for bright calibration. And for these, you will use Easy Align or VATECH. And also, you can do capture test using the console software, and you can do the tube feedback test using the terminal XA or VATECH. So in order to do this, we had to add 4 new commands, and those new commands are SPM XRES. This is for remote exposure, and SPM XREE. This for also to end the remote exposure. The first one is to start, and this one to end. And in order to pause the remote exposure, you can use this command, XREH. And also you may need to make some exposure time settings. You may want to change the time settings for exposure. Then you can use this command. By default is 5 seconds, but you can, for example, change it to 9 seconds if you need. It's usually applicable if the remote exposure mode is activated. So you can use these commands to use this remote exposure function. And the next one is the specifications. Actually, you can check them all on the technical manual. So I will skip some parts of this material, because those things that can be easily checked on the technical manual, and I will mostly concentrate on the modifications and new things that you need to know to recognize this product. So these data, all these specifications can be checked on the in the technical manual. Well, the VATECH A9, as you see here, is have been compared to PacSci. Probably you heard of this 2D device, and we also have this 3D device, Smart Plus. So if you see, even though VATECH A9 is 3D device, it's quite lighter than the Smart Plus, for example, in case of this 3D device. And it's more closer to the 2D devices. So what do you get from here is that you have 3D device with functions as on 3D device, but some specifications, like physical specifications, the hardware specifications, are more closer to the 2D. Like it's lighter and easier to install. compared to the other 3D devices. Well, as I told you, you already know probably if there are, I heard that there are some new commerce in among you. So just in case if some of you are lower than level one, then you just will recognize that in VATECH products, we have these specific parts that you will use these words in order to communicate with the service personnel of the VATECH. So you need to know this vocabulary. We call this vertical unit, and this part we call rotator unit and handle unit. This is called column unit and base unit and Ceph unit. So these are the vocabularies that you usually have to use on the VCSM in order to communicate with the technical personnel and request help whenever there is a problem in any of these units, or usually inside of them. So this is the operation sequence. Already you might know this. So you first execute the PMS program that is provided by VATECH. Is it entire or is it 3DI? Then the staff must position the patient like this. Probably you train the staff whenever you install it. So you have to know yourself first how this process is going on and what comes first. So step-by-step explanation to the staff would be also quite useful for them to make proper image acquisition. So we can see the steps here, and all you have to do is execute the PMS, position the patient, acquire could you please switch off the camera? When you guys join, I will need them to switch off the camera because there is a noise in the background. Okay, thank you. So later you can verify the acquisition after acquiring the image and wait for construction, which will go through the inside the PC, and then you can open it in the viewer and view the image itself. So all these 6 simple steps from acquisition to viewing the image. So now there is a specific parts that you need to know about this product that we didn't have on other products so far. We added this G Ethernet grabber. This grabber usually was inside the PC previously, so this time we added it to the vertical unit, as I showed you. So this Ethernet grabber will be here in the vertical unit, and it will connect it to PC using the gigabit Ethernet cable for more faster and speedier transmission of the image. This G Ethernet grabber is connected with both sensors on optical cable. So you have to be very careful whenever you install this product, especially when you install the Ceph part, and you will have to input the cables inside the Ceph arm. Optical cables, as you know, are quite fragile, and you will need to be particularly careful whenever you handle these cables. So this is the connection scheme, as you see here. The Ethernet grabber is connected to MCU using the RS-232 data, and with PC, it's connected with gigabit Ethernet, as I told you, and with the sensors, it's connected with optical cables. And that is the big picture of this connection. So let's go to some details. At site, sometimes you may have problems. For example, you may have problems with image acquisition. You cannot make image. not in your case, but in case of your client, they cannot make the image acquisition, or there is a capture failure error that occurs. Then what do you do usually? Uh, the best thing to do is to think about these connections, because these connections are both for communication between the PC and the device. Also, these cables are used for the transmission of the images. Whenever there is an image acquisition and the image is transmitted to from the device to PC using the same cables. So if you have any problems with the image acquisition or capture failure, you will have to need to check these cables connections and if there are any problems with these cables. Also, in case of the Ethernet card, there is Ethernet card installed in the PC. It acquires the image data. So if you use some kind of Ethernet card that is not recommended by VATECH, or if during the installation the configuration of IP was wrong, for example, incorrect configuration, the conflict may occur and the customer will not be able to acquire image normally. And you will need to first check two things. If again, there is proper communication between the PC and the card, if the IP installation has been properly configured. Also, I actually mentioned in the first part of this webinar, and I will show you in more details later. You will need to, whenever you install the install shield, this FS2000 manager will be installed on your PC automatically. So you don't have to set up anything or do specifically, additionally install anything. Just whenever you install the install shield, this FS2000 program will be installed. It serves as, to transmit the received image data. It's just serves as the transmission means of transmission. So you have to check whenever you switch on the PC. Usually it switches on itself. It will be like this red M letter. So you need to check if there are any problems with acquisition, or the client complains about that he cannot or she cannot acquire the image properly. Then you will need to check if this one is on. Usually it's automatically is on, but just in case, it will be better to check both communication cables and also if FS2000 is on. All right. In case of the eGrabber card, it's, as I told you, is installed in the vertical unit. So if you have any, again, issues with the image acquisition, then most probably you will need to check both if there is any incorrect cable connection, for example, because this on A9, the cable connection, they are used for both communication and for image transmission. So both communication and image transmission are done with the same cable. There are not separate cables, all right? So whenever you have any communication and image transmission problems, you will need to check both the grabber card, if the cables are properly connected to this grabber card, if the cables are connected properly to the PC, if the cables themselves are all right, because sometimes during the cleanup or something, people may damage the cables, and this may cause later problems with image acquisition. But well, so you don't need to. The first thing you have to check is the cables, because it may save you more time. In case of the optical cable and Ethernet cables, also whenever there is a problem with these two cables, they also may cause some image transmission and communication issues. So during the installation, it's very important to be careful whenever you make first installation, and you will have to input those cables inside the safe arms. You will need to be careful about the during the installation to not break those optical cables, especially optical cables. So this is the part where I will show you more detail in different material later. But the last slide related to this e-grabber and the connection between the PC and the device is that this e-grabber, it performs the communication with the main MCU using RS-232 cable, all right? And it performs the communication with PC using different Ethernet cable. So e-grabber uses these two cables in order to communicate with main MCU RS-232, and with the PC it uses the Ethernet cable. All right. So any problems you have with these components, you will need to, if there are any errors or the image acquisition problems, you will need to check first these three parts and the communication and image transmission cables as well. So the main idea of all these slides is that whenever you have any image acquisition or communication problems, you will need to check first the cables, if they are properly connected, if they are damaged or have been damaged during the installation or later on by the user themselves. And of course, if there are no problems with the cables, then you will need to check if there are any problems with the devices that this cables are connected to, like e-grabber, main MCU, Ethernet cards, and sensors. So as I told you, in case of the Ethernet card, if you are using something that is not recommended, then you may have the problems with the image transmission and the communication. So it's pretty much the same content. That's just to make sure that you understand the importance of this issue, because if the IP settings are wrong, then there will be communication problems with the PC between the PC and the device, and also the cable connection should be always be taken care of, and you will need to always check this FS2000 icon just in case if it's red or not before you do anything else. All right. So first, what I want to say is that before starting to fix anything, or it's the best thing is to just make some kind of checklist for yourself. So you just check if the connection is good, if the cable quality is all right, if this icon is on. So all these things, if there are everything is fine, but still there is an image acquisition problem, then you can further check the devices that these cables are connected to. And I will show you now a different before going to the next connection, let me show you the more detailed information about the eGrabber so that you better have better understanding and more clear view of this board. So this is the Ethernet grabber that we have now. Here you will see the RS-232 connection port, and here is the power input. Also, we have this. All right, we have 4 GB RAM memory card here, and the connection with CT panel, the CEF, and the Ethernet port are all like this. Also, the JTAG for firmware update, this port is here. So this is how the Ethernet grabber looks like. And the connection, as I explained to you, is pretty much like this. You have this Ethernet card itself, which is connected to VATECH MCU, and it's connected with using the Ethernet cable. It's connected to PC, Windows 10 PC, and also it does the cable does both receive sensor data through this card, external LAN cable, and also it does the communication with MCU by TCP/IP, and both sensors are connected also to this Ethernet grabber card, which is connected to MCU. So this is a quite simple connection, as you see, and quite easy to understand, I guess. Here we have more for better understanding the block diagram of this grabber card. So as you may see, the this memory card here, for example, it's the reason why we're using 4 GB is because to prevent data from being missed due to the input speed coming. All right, so images are coming from the sensor and need to be transmitted to the PC, right? So before, in order to not miss all these images that are speed coming to the to this grabber, there is a need for this memory card, which save those images for some time and then send those, assist sending those images to the PC. So whenever you have the images from CT sensor and CEF sensor, they are usually coming to the image data scheduler, and then they go to the memory scheduler. In this part, they are saved temporarily on this DDR 4 GB memory. Then they go to the packet scheduler, and then this all this data is transmitted to the PC. So it's pretty much it. Nothing complex here actually. So the memory scheduler, because let me first explain one by one. The image date scheduler, for example, right? The link is set up is using an external VATECH sensor and a user specified clock. The subsequent continuous signal sent by this sensor, it's divided according to the image size, which is generated in the form of image data, right? So there are channels for CT panel, CEF channels, respectively, like this, like here. So memory scheduler has input and output sections here. The first is input and 2 here, output sections. The image information obtained from image data scheduler here. This data is stored in external memory. All right, and images stacked in the buffer are transferred to the packet transmission by the output loggage. And in case of the packet scheduler, it communicates with the manager program on the PC and transmits image data, right? So all this packet scheduler does is to transmit the image data received from the memory scheduler. And we have here the Ethernet port, all right? So in order to overcome the disadvantages of the PCIe interface of the existing fgrabber that we had on other products, we changed it to Ethernet type connection. Why? Because in this case, changing the transmission method to network communication, we have the following advantages. Why we changed it to Ethernet type connection? Because now it's independent from PC and OS, all right? And PCI-based grabber had been recognized for problems on some PCs. For example, there were cases when a well-used grabber, for example, did not work properly after an OS upgrade. There was an OS upgrade on the PC on Windows, so suddenly your grabber doesn't work because it doesn't. The issue appears because of the OS upgrade, right? So that's why, to address above the issue, we decided to use Ethernet. And then another one is the stability. Using Ethernet also fixed the problems with blue screen and Windows system lock issues. Before we had some problems with other VATECH products due to the blue screen and Windows system lock. But now, using the Ethernet port, Ethernet type connection, you will not have any issues that you experienced before. All right. So here you can see how it looks like in real life, right? You have here the CEF and CT panel and Ethernet ports connections. So, and here you have the lamps that will show you if there is a proper connection established between the PC or not. So how do you check them? If you see, for example, power LED is green on here, number one, then when sensor link are normally connected, so these green means that the connection is okay and there is no problem. But if you have red light, for example, we put the 3 red lights here, you can see that if there is a if the red light is on when sensor is link connection is abnormal. So you will see these red lights here. Also, in case of the CEF LED, if you see the red light on, you will know that there is a problem with the connection. So all this information is actually in the technical manuals for you to see, but it's quite easy to understand because whenever you see, you understand the port locations. So you will know that where is the problem itself. Is it the PAN-OCT connection or CEF connection or the Ethernet connection? So all these slides will help you to understand and grasp the problems at site. As I told you, whenever the eGrabber is connected, you will see that the FlexSpeed 2000 manager is on using this server IP and 100, 200, and 100. So this IP is the server IP for the FlexSpeed 2000 manager. And whenever you see here it's on, then it means that it's connected. But if it's gray color, then there is a problem with the connection, so you have to check it. Usually, whenever you switch the PC on, it will automatically get online, so it will be red. But just there should not be any problems with this one. So just in case, if you have any connection issues or any image acquisition problems, you might want to check this one too. because without this, you will not be able, the capture image acquisition is not possible. So it should always be on. All right. So in case of the PC setup, in Device Manager, you will need to select the Ethernet connection. It's very important. You will need to check the internet Ethernet connection. And then in Advanced, you will need to select Speed Duplex. All right, Speed Duplex. And you have to set the speed duplex as 1 Gbps, full duplex. Select here. And the IP address should be, as I showed you in the first slide, in the beginning of the session. We changed it. I already mentioned, but just to remind to those who joined later, you can watch the whole recording and you will understand that we changed the IP from previous 195 style to the 1000 and 200, as you see on the screen, because there was some conflicts within the clinics and hospitals due to these the conflict between the IP numbers. So now we have changed and set up these standard IP numbers in order to fix that issue, right? And here also you will have this very useful function on Flex Speed 2000 Manager that we have new on this device. You'll be able to send a command, and then you will be able to upload new firmware. All right, you will go just to the select this, click on this tab, and go to the files and upload these new firmware. And then by clicking on the download start, you'll be able to upload or to download that new firmware on your device. So it will be quite easier to do this by using this program. And you can do it by the way, remotely, because now we have remote connection that enables you image acquisition and both testing and also firmware upgrade. So we have this Flex Speed tester, which you can use for acquiring pattern test and dark image of the grabber. Also, you can do this UART communication with TCP/IP, and you can check the version of grabber. So whenever you want to do these 3 operations, you can use Flex Speed tester now. All right, it's quite easy to use, I understand. And next one is for checking the eGrabber connection with Flectron program. So through pattern test, you can check the eGrabber connection with Flectron program. You can adjust the size of and FPS to the sensor that you're using, and you can select the test or dark on pattern tab, and you can also click start on the normal mode. So this is what you can do. In case of the grabber count, you will see them increasing here, right? And if there are any errors, you will see them here in these boxes. So this is pretty much for, I'm going to return to the previous slide now. This is about the grabber card. And next, I will show you I will not give the break time because some people joined very late, and as we are recording this, so you will be able to watch it later whenever you want. All right, so we'll go just without break. It will be much better for you to save time. All right, so after finishing this grabber card, you can see here the power flow block diagram. It's not must, but it's advisable to have this with you If you can memorize it, it's okay, but you don't have to. You just you can print it out, and in order to, have an understanding which part is connected with which and how the power flows within the device. So whenever you have any issues, you will be able to fix or address the problem much faster if you know the connection, this block diagram. So this data is, as you know, is available on the technical manual. In case of the function of the parts, you can find this data, all data on the technical manual. So I will skip this part because it's quite easy and it's even on the user manual. So as I told you, we have some changes on the position of the additional grabber that we added to this device. The rest of the boards are the same. So all these boards that you saw on other VATECH devices are still in the same parts yet that you are accustomed to. The only one difference is that we added this G Ethernet grabber, and it's in vertical unit. All right, this is the only new thing that we added, a new board that we added here. So it will have its own SAP codes and its own name. You will be able to order it whenever there is a problem, technical issues. As you see here, the G Ethernet grabber is located here in the upper part. And the next is the main power. And also you see the main MCU. You can see the CEF unit board right here and the CEF detector. Also the handle unit. We added this new keypad board. It's very easy to use. Only, as I told you, all you have to do is just to slightly touch it, and it will move the column up and down. And as I mentioned before, we have now this Pano and CT Chinrest. You can move it for taking the Pano acquisition. You can move it forward, and for CT, you will drag it back. And there is a sensor. So if you are, for example, taking a CT, but the Chinrest is moved forward and is located in the Pano section, then it will give you, and this sensor will locate that problem, and it will give you an error message saying that you need to change to the position of Chinrest to CT. All right, and vice versa. All right, so this sensor is quite useful. In rotator unit, we have, as you know, inverter, tube, generator, and all other parts that you already are accustomed to. The difference with other products is that before this motor on the CT and Pano detector part, this motor was here on the vertical, inside the vertical unit, but now we moved it to here because when the tube and the collimator here and the sensor, when the rotator is moving, they will also move simultaneously. And for that, in order to move this sensor to match the collimator, this motor is required. So how does that happen? Mr. Alex will explain to you tomorrow in tomorrow's section. This is just for hardware understanding. And these are the boards, well, as I explained. So you know the functions of those boards, so I won't skip this part. And these images have the images and functions of each board that you can later refer to, and you can check them actually on the technical documentations that you will get along with the product. So you will know that the power board, it provides power output to system, motor, and sensor inverter. Also, to generator, the output is 380 volts. And emergency switch input goes to the power shutdown. So all this controlled with the power board. And this one is sub 56 board, also inside the rotator unit for this is the power board for the CTN panel. So this is how it looks like. These things actually you will get used to, because whenever you need to replace them, so you will get used to them quite fast, I guess, and you can refer to the technical documentations if you forget. But it's I guess for you it should be quite easy, because there are just a few boards. So as I told you, the generator got quite smaller, all right? So whenever you, as you know, whenever you replace the generator, we will talk about this in replacement, but whenever you replace the generator, you have to replace inverter together with generator, all right? Don't forget, if you have to replace a generator, you have to replace the inverter together. They are kind of one set. And as I told you, we have this V sign on sensor. So you can distinguish what you will probably store these sensors. You might store these sensors. So in order to make difference, to see the difference between other sensors for the other products, because the sensors on other devices are not compatible with A9. So you have to use A9 sensors only. It's very important, right? So in order not to mistake them, we put this V sign, so you can know that this sensor is only for A9 and you will use it only on A9. Yeah, you cannot use any other sensors from other devices for A9. And the same here, you can see the sensor with V sign. And in case of the power board, this is CEF power board. You probably already know this. And this one is the keypad board. It was the same for the Green X or Green X. Yeah, so you can see that's quite simple board for the keypad on this A9. And these parts, due to the time issues, I can skip, because you can find all this information and they are not much important actually. So whenever you this is important whenever you need to decide where to install. If there is, if client is asking you to install and you need to go to the site, you need to know the size of the room, right? So that will be you will refer to these sizes, and you will know if the device will fit or not. This device is might be, well, it's entry-level device, but it's still 3D device. So that's why you have to treat it as 3D device, and it's little bigger than 2D devices. But weight is much less than other 3D devices comparing to others. So in case of the PC, we have you will need to purchase, if you don't get them from VATECH, then you will need to purchase the PC which matches the specifications mentioned in the technical manual. All right, HP Z1 G5. So all other specifications in more detail can be found in technical manuals. And you need to also refer to the technical documentations for this information about electrical specifications, power supply voltage, frequency, power rating, and accuracy. All this data can be found in the technical manual as well. And of course, environmental specifications according to the country you're working on. For the image section, actually, we put some images here. You probably, most of you may have experience already, and you know what is PANA image, you know what is CT image or CEF image. So I just added this information so that you can refer to them anytime you want. This, like whenever you communicate with the doctors, you need to know what is PANA image and why do the customer takes PANA image to check what. So what kind of information from patient the doctor is trying to get when taking the PANA image, and the same goes to the Ceph image. For example, Ceph image is taken for these, to check these parts, to explore possible TMJ concerns or plan for orthodontic work, or diagnose suspected tooth and jaw fractures, etc., etc. So this general information can be checked here. The same goes for the posterior and anterior images. So all these vocabularies and the general requirements of these images and their functions, it's good to know, but you don't have to as a service manager, but still it would be nice to know them. So today you learned at least, and I suppose to learn how to recognize VATECH 9. What is the difference between what VATECH 9 and other products? I will just remind one more time. The biggest difference in A9 is that it is seated type. So all other VATECH products, the patient must stand in order to acquire image. But in case of A9, it's must. It's a seated type. So you cannot take images by standing. You have to, the patient must sit, and you have to use specific chair. All right. And that chair has some specifications which will be given in the technical documentation. So if your customer is buying A9, you have to explain to them that they also must purchase this chair. All right. So as I explained to you before, we have this, we added these lamps, LED lamps here in section 1, section 3, section 2, section 3 on the MCU board. So you have these lamps and they will assist you, and they can assist the service technicians to recognize where are the defective parts in the machine. All right, it's very useful for you. It's quite handy at site. Here, this information also will be available in a technical manual, so you can later study them by themselves. You can print them out and carry with you. So it will be much useful then. So you can see that if there is a, the LED is not on, number one, then there is some, for example, column rail control LED. When up and down signal is input and doesn't, it should be on, but it's off. So there is some kind of problem with the up and down issue with the column. So all these informations can be checked in the technical documentation. So I will not read them by one. It's just, I will repeat one more thing, that it's to help you to understand faster, to understand where is the problem in the machine. So whenever, if there is any issue and you are at site, first try to check the, as I mentioned before, the connection cables, and then try to check these LED lamps in order to understand where is the exact problem. All right. And next, I will let you know about the hardware installation, as we have now the idea about, general idea about the product. We know what kind of product is VATECH A9. Now let's go to hardware installation, which I expect or assume most of you already made this hardware installation, so you have experience in that. Because in order to attend this webinar, you need to have at least 6 months experience. So I will skip some parts, general parts that you already know, what you have to do before the hardware explanation. So these documentations, these contents, for example, as you know, are available in the technical documentations, and I don't know if you guys are reading this, but usually there are liabilities of manufacturer and the liability of the dealer. So it could be useful to know this if there are any questions, then you can refer to this, and at least you will know what is your liability, what are your responsibilities, and what are responsibilities of the manufacturer to fix some complicated problems, make them more easy, to solve them more easier. It would be nice to know those things. So electrical requirements, well, they don't differ much from other VATECH products. So you can refer to this in the technical manual. The tube voltage, the tube current is 20 plus minus 20%, and exposure times is 5% plus. So what the technical service engineer should know here from this page is that you need to check, especially in most of the countries, it's some technical staff, they forget, the service engineers, they forget to check this part during the installation. So it's very important, you know, the device should be earthed, so, or grounding, whatever you use in your country. So this part is very important. You might already know that. Otherwise, the electrical requirements, same for most of the VATECH products. And you know that what are the required rules, so tools, and also before opening the box, as you know, you have to check the tilt watch and shock watch. And if you want to know how to, you know, just refresh your mind how to install this product, we have this installation video QR code on box. So you can check it with your tablet or with your smartphone. If there is internet connection, then on YouTube you can watch how to step-by-step install A9. All right, it's quite easy. And most of you have experience with that too. In case of the components size and weight, as I mentioned before, some, well, numbers may change usually, but or image may be different from this one, but usually the box will be something like this, and it will include the column and rotating unit, accessories, parts, PC system, and monitor, as with all other VATECH products. But as you know, PC system and monitor is optional. The how to open the box and how to get the device outside, it's quite easy for you, I guess, with those having experience. So I will skip most of this just for your general reference. You can do it later. But don't forget, you have to use this dolly in order to remove, to move the device from one point to other, because even though it's lighter than other 3D devices, it's still quite expensive and heavy device. So using dolly would be advisable. And then you know how to use these you know, wrenches and what kind of steps you should take. All this is explained in the both in the video that you can check through the QR code, and also you can refer to the technical manual. So on this webinar, I will skip these parts because it's quite obvious and usually general for most of the VATECH products. There is new thing that we have, I have to mention, is that we have wall bracket in the lower part of the column. Before, for all other products of VATECH, it was in the top part where the SIF arm is located. But in case of A9, it's in the lower part, all right? So you can refer to the technical manual just in case you forget. But anyway, you will know that the wall bracket now is in the lower part, all right? And as you know, this is for minimizing the vibration of the device during the image acquisition. So using wall brackets and fixing the machine is quite important when taking in order to take the proper images. So this is how it looks like. You can adjust it, and during the installation. And well, I will skip these parts where you know already what to do, how to mark the holes and how to connect them. It will be all available in the technical documentations. I will try to give you more data about the novelties on this device, all right? So the general things you can refresh your mind if you want by referring to the technical documentations. And don't forget, by the way, sometimes service engineers, they may forget this, but removing the safety bolts is very important after the installation or during the installation. So don't forget to remove the vertical frame cover and remove the safety bolts and use Allen wrench for that. All right. And also there are 9 screws on the base, so you can level it and attach it to the basement. Then, as you know, when you're done with the basement, you have to always level the device, and also you have to tighten the joint bracket bolts when you're done with the adjustments. All other things are almost the same as with the other products. So we have this chin rest and normal bite block into the unit. You can input it like this, and we will not, as I told you, we don't have the temple supports, but the chin rest, which can be moved. Also, we have these assembled switch holders, like for other products, and you will see that as I told you, the wall bracket is in the lower part, and on the SEF part, we don't have the wall bracket, all right? It's on the lower part. So don't forget to put the caps on in order to finish perfectly your installation. And regarding the chair that I mentioned before, which is the main part of this product. So this chair should be with the backrest, all right? Don't forget it. Before it was without backrest, but there were some issues and complaints from the customers. That's why now we are recommending chairs only with backrest, all right? So don't forget it. Every customer who purchases A9 must purchase a chair, and the specifications are in the technical manual, so you can tell them what kind of chair to buy. All right. Don't forget that you have to refer to all details that are mentioned in the technical documentations. For example, don't forget to and don't skip these specific things like handling, because height adjustment handle is required because the staff may stand a little far from the patient, so they will need to stretch their hand, and they can, in order to adjust the seat by using this handle. All right, so having this handle is very important part of this chair. All right, backrest and handle, these are important things. And as I told you before, when the developers were working on this equipment and using the chair. The sizes and dimensions of the chair were considered by referring to the international measures of men and women and adults and children. So there shouldn't be any issues with the, adjusting the column and the chair and the patient in order to acquire proper images. All right, this is the pretty much about the hardware installation. And now most of you already know how to install the VATECH products. So all you have to do again to check is the difference was that we have wall bracket, not at the safe part, but we have it on the lower part of the column. All right. So that is something you should refer to. And pretty much everything else quite easy to understand and to follow up, especially if we have if you use the QR code on the box, and you can easily install A9 by referring to that video. And next, I will explain about the changes in console software structure, right? Now, there was some changes in the console software structure because we are trying to improve as much as possible, and we are getting the ideas from site and trying to make it more useful and more easy to use for the customers. So that's why we made some few changes in the console software, right? It's usually called console software, but sometimes you can also hear our staff talking like using capture software. So it's the same thing. You use the software in order to capture an image, all right? So it's either console software or capture software. It's the same thing. So you can use this to operate VATECH products or any other products. Usually the EOX devices, they all have their own console softwares. But what is different about VATECH console software is it's very simple to use, and the UI UX is perfect because maybe you've heard let's just take some time off. The Japan is very hard market to enter, So if you want to sell something to Japan, it's really hard. It must be perfect almost. But I was in Japan and we visited a lot of customers who were using our products, and they all said that VATECH console software or capture software that you see now on the screen is the best, and it's easy to use. It's very simplistic. It's very minimalistic, which they actually love. So we are comparatively better than Japanese manufacturers' console software. And I saw them by myself, actually. They were very complex and a lot of stuff on the screen. Some doctors, they just don't know where to click and where to go. But in case of VATECH product, is very easy. Everything you need is very simple and everything there for you. Now, after this advertisement, let's go back to the slide. So we improved UI and UX. You have better experience and you have better views, wider screen, and I will explain one by one as fast as I can. So here you see the Smart Plus. It's 3D device. I don't know if you are selling it in your country, but this is 3D device, and this is the console software that it had. And this is the GreenX, also one of the new products that we have. So GreenX and A9 are almost the same, but A9 is a little better than GreenX. So as you may see, we moved the patient information further up. I will show you why and how. And the screen is much wider and higher. And also the menu is on the left side. It's easy to navigate. And these icons that you can see here is a little bit dark background, but here you can see them more clearly. So this is our console software. As you know, it has exit button. Whenever you can, you can exit. And what do we have new here? Well, all other stuff you already know, right? Like guide messages appear here. The X-ray patient gender and age group can be acquired from here. And everything is more clear now, right? So modality selection buttons are here, and the home button. Also settings functions, quite easy to find. Speaker volume, you can change the speaker volume from here. Laser beam on off. Also manual construction button, phantom button, and test rotation. And patient information window here is much wider. So everything else, most of the functions are the same as in other VATECH products, but here you will see that we moved the patient information, as I told you, to the upper part of the screen. Now it's easier to see here. And there is console software information here. So if you click here, by clicking on console software, you will see the open source announcement. So you can see the copyright information, and also you will find the about console software information is the release history. You can see all the release history of this console software, and you will see also the version. So whenever our technical staff asks you about the console software version, you can go directly here and find it right here above console, about console software. And in case of the special examination section here, before special examination and pan examination were together on the same column, let's say. But now we moved it in different tab, so it's more simplistic and more minimalistic view, right? It's more easier now. So whenever you want to go to special, you can click on the special tab and go there. Otherwise, you can see it like this. And next one is sinus PA and sinus lateral. This is usually depends on the license, all right? So it will be displayed or not displayed depending on the license that the doctor has. They will be available on the special part. So you will be able to see the view is like this, quite more clear, more simplistic, right? And the new layout for the Ceph, before it was like this, now it's more, I like this much more. Yeah, this one is much better than before. These icons and everything is changed now, and better colors, more clear, and easier to use. Well, as I told you, this is 8x8 FOV, and it's single FOV 8x8. You can choose it here. You can select the high resolution and standard, and then confirm and take the image. So this is how it looks like in practice. In case of console software details, there are some changes you have to know. There are some changes. So first we go to, you know how to enter these console software details, right? So you go to the enter your engineering account, and the password is VATECH, as you know. So every time you make any changes, you can save them, and you can close the panel here. So take a look. You can see that the sensor default tab, there was sensor and default tabs, two separate tabs. Now they're all together. They're in one tab. We combined sensor and default. Why? You will see it in the next slides. Here, there is one important thing quite useful, I guess, the keep option. Before, we had this keep option and image backup option, right? So it was like this. Now we removed the backup option. Why? Because the images now are saved automatically. So you don't have to do anything. You just, the doctor takes the image and they're saved automatically. And the files, the folders are also created automatically. So it also has the name, the date, usually the name is the date actually. So it displays the image creation date like this, the project and the number 2021, blah, 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 blah. And one more thing, which is quite useful, is that the images, you can type, for example, in CT here and CR, how many images, the number of images you want to save. So it's limitless. You can type any number. If you type 5, it will save 5 images. If you type 10, 100, it will save images in accordingly. And we also, due to these GDPR issues and compliance, we had to add this privacy policy here. So don't forget to check this, the personal information. And is if you click on this one, for example, some patients, they don't want their names to be visible, right? So if you click here, upon the request from the doctor, if you click on the privacy policy, you can tell this to doctor, you must explain to him. If you click on this, then the name of the patient, some part of it will, and the date of birth and all that, the most important parts of the patient information, they will be appear as in asterisk. So they will not be in letters. So they will be more better protected from someone who should not see that information. All right, so this part is the new, and this part is the new. And everything else is the same, like the language options and DEP image label options is the same as before. These two have been added newly, so you have to know about this. And one more thing is the machine information. What is new here on A9 is that before you could change serial number here, right? But now you cannot do that. So whatever you change, whatever changes you do in INI file, you still cannot, the number here will not change. It's like the number will remain as delivered from the VATECH. So this number, serial number, will not be changed. And whenever, if the service engineer asks you for the serial number, you can give this number, which is unchangeable. So this one cannot be edited. It will always be here. And as we are using Ethernet, don't forget to check this. So it should be red box, all right? Because we're using Ethernet now. So these are two things that are worth mentioning here. Everything else you already know how to do from previous experience. Also, we, as I told you, we combined sensor and default. So whenever you click on it, you will see this, the CBCT, panel, Ceph, and before they were like this, default and sensor. Now they are all together combined. So here you can check use MAR option or not. Well, includes mandible, maxilla. These are usually by default. So just in case if there are no specific requests to change them, then you can leave them as they are. In panel, you will see all this information. The eye process is Zeus panel and the sensor is white panel, right? So you might want to check this one. Unless the doctor requests something to change in this, then you can leave this as it is, as I mentioned before. And in case of the Ceph also, the information can be checked from here. So all information we combined in one place, it will be much easier for you to check this information. And in info, FOV info, you can check this data width and level, the FOV size. And in HT, you can, whenever you do, for example, calibration, it's very important that you enter all the values for air, water, bone here. All right. So if you do any calibration, don't forget to enter the values by coming to FOV info, clicking on HT, and enter those values here. It's very important. This is all for the structure of the console software. So now you know what is the difference between the console software structure between the A9 and other that we use on other products. Now, one of the the most complicated part of today's webinar is the console software or capture software installation, but it's not that complex actually, but comparing anyway to the previous content, it may be a little bit complicated. So you can usually refer to the technical manual for more details, but I will tell you in general. Most of the part is the same as before, so you don't have to worry about any changes, but there are just a few simple changes, some novelties that we added, so I will concentrate more on them. All right. First, we go to see the structure. All right. So this is the PC, which has the console and image viewer programs in it, right? It's connected with the device, and device has the exposure switch, and it has the up and down switch, which is optional. Also, it's connected to the warning system panel, and this is pretty much the connection that we have. And this is the location of the console image, console software, right? And image viewer. So the specification of console software can be found in the technical manual. You can refer to this data. So I will skip this part. The only thing is that you have to check this. If the Ethernet card is not installed in your PC, you have to purchase it separately, because if you don't get, the PC from VATECH, then you will need to purchase it separately, of course. Otherwise, if you're getting the PC from VATECH, then you don't have to worry about it. And of course, the console software installation requires a little bit more skills. I guess most of you must have it if you have experience already with other installation of other VATECH equipment, so it shouldn't be much difficult for you to do that. Now, we have some interesting things here. Let's say entering the IP address. The steps could be different, but for the proper steps, you can refer to the technical manual. So I just put this data here in order to explain the differences, with other products. So you have to know that the entering IP address is important here because we changed IP addresses. All right. So the following IP addresses are imported when you enter the IP address for this on this computer for the console software installation. Don't forget to input these IP addresses because we changed it from the previous ones. And to install this device, you have to follow the steps from the device manager. And here, the most important part here will be, as I told you, is that you have to go to advanced from the real PCI family. Well, all these steps and all these descriptions are already in technical manual, just to be sure that you understand its importance. Please don't forget to click on speed duplux and select GBPS full duplux. Okay, it's very important because otherwise the image transmission will be quite slow. You might experience some issues with that. So it's very important to follow all the steps as described in the technical manual for A9. So as you know, you have to do these BIOS settings, and if you have the PC from VATECH, usually we do all these BIOS settings by here, so you don't have to worry about that. But if they are not configured in advance, and if you don't get the PCs from VATECH, then or they are different, so you have to you make sure that you follow this reboot the PC and go to BIOS settings, set the variables as shown in this table. All you have to do is just follow the steps described in the technical manual, and everything will be tipped up. So as you know, you have to turn off the firewall, you know, from other installation from the other VATECH products. And you have to disable the screensaver and select the power options. You have to turn off the user account control also, as you know, and you have to set folder exclusions with antivirus software. All these descriptions are also in the technical manual, so you can refer to that information. And then you will install the software itself, right? So this is the rough steps for the software installation. And as you know, the Isidenti and or Isident or any third-party program must be installed. You know, the viewer program should be installed ahead on PC, so don't forget to install those viewer programs, which you have already experience with installing with, and which quite easy to install, by the way. And in case of the install shields, well, you know how to do that. You have to turn on the PC and imaging equipment, and you have to insert this USB that you get from the VATECH and perform US virus scan before installation. And then you have to go to the install sheet and folder and run setup exe, right? So this is more in detail explained in the technical manual, so you can refer to these steps. Actually, it's very easy to install, so all you have to do is just to click next, 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 and select some, for example, in case of some steps, you have to be careful to select the F grabber ET on the window here, but if it's not selected already. So it's very easy and to proceed with. And then you install the DICOM viewer. All right. The DICOM viewer is installed as described in the technical manual. Also, it's very easy. Just click on the next, install, and then finish. So it's quite. Don't forget to check the I accept the terms and license agreement. Enter the username and clinic name. Well, as is shown in the example, and it will be quite easy to install too. Well, also the DirectX installation, nothing new here. You have to just agree and then click on the next, wait until it's installed and then finish, right? Yes, what is the new here is installing the FS 2000 manager, right? So when this installer image acquisition is not possible, so on A9, image acquisition will not be possible without FS 2000 manager. So you make sure that this file is installed, all right? Don't forget about this. Please install the FS 2000 manager. And interfacing the EasyIdentify with console software is also important. And I expect that you had experience before with other VATECH products, and you already did this. So just in case you forgot, you can always refer to the technical manual for step-by-step explanations. And also you know how to go to the settings and do the settings as before, as below, you know, to find to go to the proper path and make sure, you know, the capture message is like VATECH A9 captured. It's the same as in previous products, so it will be quite easy to proceed with. And you also need to do the parameter configurations. So the same as in the previous products. And don't forget to put the product name, and you can choose the text size according to the demands. And in case of the also parameter configurations, as you may see, it's the same as before, but as I told you, the changes were here when the sensor default are the same combined tab, and you will find the configurations right here by clicking on one tab, and also the serial number in the machine information, they cannot be edited. Right? They are available in the general tab, so you can always check this data from here. And very important thing that probably you already doing, don't forget to disable packing mode. All right, it's very important to disable the packing mode. And you can also select the announcement mode according to desires of doctors. It could be beep or music, and you can use this commands SPM MPOP 001. So you know how to do this already from previous equipment. This is pretty much all about the console software installation. As you see, it's almost the same as before, so there are just a few additions that we had for this product, like FS2000 Manager, and some changes in the console software configurations. But more than 90% of it is the same as in the previous products. So in this slide, I put the link to the detailed description of the product registration. So if you already received the product from our staff, then if you want to see the detailed information in English for description of registration, then product registration, you can check it from here. All right. Now we know how to install console software. We know what is required, what kind of PC do we have to use for that, and how to set up the console PC and how to install the console software or capture software. So you can configure the console software with viewer software and register new product as shown in the guide that you can refer to. So all this, most of the data that we have for A9 for today is over. So I will, for those that joined later and didn't see the previous slide that I shared with the first two guys that joined earlier, I will repeat one more time the major modifications that comes with the A9 product. Okay, those countries who are going to order A9 EOX product, what are they going to get with this product is this. This product A9 use only chair for image acquisition. You must purchase, your customer must purchase chair. It's seated type. You cannot take images standing, all right? It doesn't have temporal support and no canine beam. The second point, this chin rest, it's adjustable. It has a sensor. If you put it in pano, you can make a pano image acquisition. And if you drag it back, it's very easy. You can make a CT image acquisition. But if you do it, if you put it on pano and you're trying to make a CT image acquisition, you will have error message because there is a sensor here, all right? And Mr. Alex will show you how it works tomorrow. And all the sensors have V sign on them. They have separate SAP codes and they have separate product names, but they look like other sensors. So in order to not mix them, we put this V sign on them, right? And the PC, if you don't get PC from VATECH, then you have to know that they are installed with external LAN cards. In order to use this device, you need external LAN cards. Don't forget it, all right? So we have LEDs on the main MCU for you to understand where is all LED has the explanation, which is in the appendix in technical manual, so you can refer to them. So whenever you go to the site, you can, by checking these LEDs, you can know where is the problem. Every LED has its own code and explanation. And also we changed the server IP, as I explained. The server IP before was 195, etc., and it created some conflicts. That's why we changed IP to this. And another modification is that the tube is smaller, all right? The tube is smaller, that's why it gets hot. So in order to prevent it from getting hot, we added by default fans. So you don't, it's usually option on other products, but on this A9, the fan is installed by default because of the size of the tube. And the port speed, don't forget to select 1 gigabit per second full duplex, all right? So it's important for the proper image transmission. And also for service engineers, the good news is that we added pre-attached these aluminum and copper filters, so you don't have to carry them around, all right? They will be on device anytime you need them for calibration. And you can do remote X-ray exposure test on A9, all right? So you can do image optimization, you can do beam alignment, you can do sensor bright calibration, the capture test, tube feedback test, everything is possible by remote. All you have to do is just to tell the staff to stay away from the room where you are going to do this image optimization work, so that for the safety issues, nobody is inside with the device. And the weight is lighter than other 3D image machines. It's closer to 2D images, but so you can handle like 2 or 3 strongmen may handle this device. The height is 1966. We have new keypad here. It's touch keypad, so you can just touch it slightly and it will move the column up and down, all right? And this device is, as I told you, the city type. So whenever the patient sits, he can see or she can see their face on the mirror. We added a mirror here to make it more easier to position the patient. All right, so patient can see himself too, and help assist the staff with positioning. Also, use FlexSpeed 2000 tester. You can use it to perform pattern test. You can do dark image acquisition, install it. Don't forget to install this. And you can do UART communication with TCP/IP, and you can check grabber version using this program. All right, it's very easy to use. You will just get used to it within 5 or 10 minutes once you get acquainted with it. So also the last one, we have this FS2000 manager. FS 2000 Manager, it's please see the difference between FS Flex Speed 2000 Tester and Manager. All right, Tester is for these functions, and FS 2000 Manager is for upgrading firmware. You can use this program to upgrade firmware. All right, and it will be downloaded and installed automatically along with install Shield. So whenever you install Shield on PC, this program will be automatically installed, so you don't have to install it separately. All right. These are the major modifications for A9, and more complex issues about the images will be discussed tomorrow. My colleague Alex Yang will explain to you a little more complex issues, but they are not that much complex because you already have experience, and he will explain it using some video files, so it will be easy to understand. All right, thank you very much for joining today and for having patience for 2 hours listening to this technical content. I hope you can use these videos later for referring, if you forget anything or you want to refresh your knowledge. So this webinar file we have been recording it, and we will send it to you. My colleague will share this file with you later for reference. All right. Thank you very much for joining today, and you can ask all your questions tomorrow to my colleague, Mr. Alex, because of time issues today. And also you can ask your questions to our subsidiary in London, UK, and they can also support you with those issues. But whenever you have any questions, you also can contact our service personnel for more details, and they will be happy to help you anytime you have any questions. Thank you very much for joining, and enjoy the rest of the day.